Wisdom comes from learning from other people's mistakes.
Welcome to the Service to Syndication podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world who have worn the uniform of this great country, those who provide services to our men and women in uniform, and other service-oriented professionals to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer your dreams and goals in real estate and to use this wealth creation vehicle so you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of generosity and prosperity. If what you desire is time, lifestyle, and financial freedom, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, the knowledge, experience, skills, so you can go out and crush it in whatever real estate asset class you desire. So grab a pencil and paper, sit back, and enjoy the ride on the Service to Syndication podcast.
Hello, my servicemen and women and other service providers. Welcome to another episode of the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Cedric Marlowe, and I am a U.S. Navy vet. Here on the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, we interview the most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world, where most have donned the uniforms of this great country. We aim to provide the tool sets, the mindsets, skill sets for you to achieve your personal and business goals while using real estate as a wealth creation vehicle to help you live a more successful, happy, and fun-filled life. Everyone, today I'm super excited because I have with me Mr. Johnny Lynam, who is a top-notch real estate investor, coach, and author. But before I properly introduce our guest to you, I want to ask a favor of you. Please, if you get some value out of this interview, if you get some type of insight, mindset shift, if you learn a new skill, new information, receive inspiration or motivation to go out and take some action to make some progress in your life, please share this episode with your friends. Send it to someone you know who might be or could be interested in real estate. Share it on your social media. Post it on your wall or share it in your stories. Help us spread our message while you help others. And for all of you who share this episode, I want to say thank you. And again, everyone, we have with us today Mr. Johnny Lynam. He is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force who has served for over 19 years as a developmental engineer and intelligence officer. He is also an author, philanthropist, seasoned real estate investor, and coach. Johnny has over 120 doors in his real estate portfolio, valued at over $14 million, primarily located in Panama City, Florida, and Montgomery, Alabama real estate markets. Today, he is the founder of Linam Enterprises. The company launched in 2015 with a dedication to buying and selling real estate across the Southeast markets, where Johnny has lived, and across his home state of Alabama. In 2021, Johnny wrote his first book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies: What They Forgot to Teach You in School. Due to the overwhelmingly positive response from his readers, Johnny founded REI Genius. It is a community dedicated to changing lives through real estate. Again, Johnny, welcome. Sir, before we get going, the first thing that I like to do with my guests is have them to kind of walk us through their real estate journey in about 75 seconds or less.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely a pleasure and honor to be here today. And for me, my real estate journey started using my VA loan. It takes me back to 2006, buying that first property. I think it was like $65,000 in Warner Robins, Georgia, one side of a duplex. And for me, coming up from humble beginnings, the year prior, when I joined the service and moved there, credit was screwed up coming out of college. Didn't have a lot of, when it came to financial literacy, man, I wasn't paying my credit cards on time, and my credit score sucked. And so I had to have a family member sign on the lease for my first apartment, got my credit together, got my first property. And after that, man, it just opened my eyes up to real estate. I joined a local real estate investor meetup under William Tingle up in Macon, Georgia, and just became a student of the game. And fast forward 2011, bought a foreclosure with my VA loan again in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. 2013, moved to the DC area, bought another foreclosure with my VA loan, and we were hooked at that point. We started buying a couple rentals in Birmingham, and then 2015, We did our first fix and flip outside of Fort Meade here in Alexandria, Virginia. And the rest is history. It started just one deal after another and keeping a few as rentals, flipping the other ones. And eventually got into the multifamily space in 2020 and then just continued to scale the portfolio up. And here we are today.
Nice, nice. So you're an Air Force officer, entrepreneur, real estate investor, educator, coach, author, husband, father. Where do you find the time for all of this?
No, that's a great question. I get that a lot. And one of the things that the military has taught me is how to focus on the high level tasks that are going to move the needle and being able to delegate. And without delegation, without having the right people on your team, with the first part of the team is my spouse. I couldn't do any of this without my spouse. And how she's able to step in and fill in the gap for me within the household with the kids, but then also in the business and everything that she does on a daily basis. We're orchestrating things behind the scenes and then having great boots on the ground when I talk about my contractors, my property management companies, as well as the realtors that we work with and the relationships that we have. That's how you get things done and be able to wear multiple hats and really be the CEO. Because guess what? The CEO of Walmart is not in there ringing up people's groceries. And the thing is, it's like, okay, how do you keep that CEO mindset and have the right people on your team to set you up for success? And that comes in everywhere from the house, the W-2 job with the Air Force, but then also with real estate investing and with coaching as well too. Having the right people on your team can allow you to lead multiple organizations simultaneously.
Okay, got it. Got it. So what kind of prompted you to join the military? You said you went to college. So
Yep.
a lot of people, go to college, they're like, military, no, I'm going out, start this career. So what took you there?
So that's a really great question because it's a little nuanced. Initially out of high school, my dad was a Vietnam veteran. And for me, humble beginnings, like we weren't wealthy. They weren't going to be able to afford to pay for me to go to college. And I had known that all going through high school, middle school, and high school. Like my mom didn't. It was not a day that went by that she didn't really put them in my mindset. Hey, you got to go to school. You got to get these grades. And I was blessed. I finished third in my graduating class, had academic scholarships, but the Army offered me a ROTC scholarship right out of high school. And one of the requirements was a in-person interview and the closest detachment and where I wanted to go to school is University of Alabama. So I had to interview with them on campus. And preparing for that, my dad mentioned to me like, hey, if you're going up there, probably should talk to the Air Force as well too, even though the Air Force didn't offer me a ROTC scholarship out of high school. So I went there and still had the conversation with them. And I can remember the day going in there, really cool. And then once they found out that I was majoring in electrical engineering, the major kind of sat up in his seat. He was like, hey, well, if you can come here and afford to show up and not have scholarship your first semester of your freshman year, then it's highly likely we'll be able to bring you on the scholarship the second semester, your freshman year for 5 years. And I took them from their word and showed up. And lo and behold, they were actually able to bring me on scholarship because of my major. And I didn't look back. And, that was one of the best decisions I probably made in my life now, knowing what I know, being on the inside of multiple deployments, deploying with the Army a couple different times that, it's been definitely a blessing to serve in the Air Force. And coming in, I would have never thought I would have had the opportunity to travel, to impact the mission and lead other individuals at so many different levels. And so it's definitely been a blessing.
Yeah. A lot of our listeners, of course, are prior military or currently serving, but, some of our listeners are not, never served a day in the military, but, they're in this real estate space. And so, they may not understand sacrifices and things like that. And, especially being a military officer, for those of you that are listening, being a military officer, the income, it's of course higher than the enlisted, and, you could retire, your retirement's coming up here pretty soon. So you could have retired and, got you a nice career being a military officer, being, like you said, electrical engineer, things like that. Why pursue real estate?
Man, that's a great question, man. It's funny. You asked that question and I can remember, can see my mom's face because she asked that exact same question. She's like, you're a military officer. What is this with this real estate stuff? Why are you doing this? You got a good job. Boy, you got these kids in hand, your wife, you don't need to be out here putting all this at risk. I'm telling you, that's the conversation that we had. I'm like, Mama, I get it, but I see the vision. I know what I'm doing. I love it. and it's profitable. So, even, and I think that's the thing that a lot of times our parents and individuals around us, they can't see the vision that God has given us, and they're trying to protect us and from their perspective. But the thing is that we have to take that with a grain of salt and know what you know, and know that that you can achieve whatever it is that you put your mind to. And for me, it was, really thinking back, my dad, who was an entrepreneur, he was a pastor as well too, for multiple decades. And I remember the conversation because he was like, hey, it was no watching Spider-Man on Saturday mornings. It was like, hey, boy, you getting up, you're going to work with me. And he had his own television and appliance repair business. And his mindset was, he was like, hey, if anything happens and you lose your job, whatever, you're going to have this skill set and know how to run the business and at least know how to have a trade. And the thing is that he told me is like, if you ever want to be wealthy in life, that you can't become wealthy by working for somebody else. And that always stuck in the back of my mind. And so at 16, I had a lawn service business. I was cutting lawns. My freshman year, that summer, I went back home, started a car wash business. And so I've always really had that entrepreneurial bug. And when I found real estate and saw what I was able to do, and you see the Donald Trumps and, just the allure of seeing how, the high rises and the name on the skyscrapers growing up is like, okay, there's people that's building wealth with real estate. So why not me too? And, and once seeing how you could buy a pre-foreclosure, I could use my VA loan, I could have instant equity and then turn into a rental property after our PCS or leave the area and go to my next duty station. That was all I needed to see. It's like, okay, let's go, let's put it together and let's create the business around it. And when you find that passion, that it just makes it that much more rewarding and easy to do.
Okay. Yeah. So I know you also said that I read in your bio, I should say, that, you're in Panama City, Florida, you're in Montgomery, Alabama, and just prior to us start recording, you said, you're all over the state of Alabama buying. So what class of assets are you investing, and in what class areas are you buying your assets?
Yeah, great question, because where the location definitely matters. For us, we primarily focus B and C class value add properties is really what we focus on. We try to stay away from war zones in areas with high crime, just because it just doesn't fit our model. We're based out of the DC area where we lead our teams virtually. And so for me, it's like I'm not involved hands on. And so for me, I got to sleep at night. And the last thing that I want is someone calling me in the middle of the night saying somebody was shot or somebody was injured at a property that we own. And so a lot of times, you have that in low income areas, unfortunately, and we're areas where you have high crime. And so we try to stay away from those areas, and we really focus on building community and establish communities where individuals feel safe, being able to provide resources to help them level up in whatever it is that they're doing. And so with that, we found that kind of those B and C class areas, low crime and median income from 40 to 70,000 has kind of become our niche that we really focus on and serve.
Now, in those areas, how are you finding your deals?
No, great question. And I think it's a multi-front approach on how we do that. One being off market, of course, direct to owner is a great way to bring in leads, build relationships with owners that have the properties that we're looking to bring in. Also, you have brokers that are out there doing the same thing where they're going off market direct to owners to get listings. And so building the broker relationships, but also being able to go direct to owner are great ways to get deal flow and to bring deals in. And so that's worked really well for us, as well as, on our single family stuff, that we have really good success with our strategy with being able to work with listing agents for properties that were really compatible with our business model to bring in deals.
Okay. Yeah. Just for our listeners, just tell them kind of like the makeup of your business, single family, multifamily, self-storage, whatever it is that you're into.
Yeah. So we started in the single family space. We're moving around, as I kind of talked about, and using a VA loan. And then once we started doing the fix and flips, that we really focused in and perfected that and started keeping some of the homes as rentals to build up our rental portfolio to build long-term wealth. And in 2020, we bought our first apartment unit, a 18 unit in Panama City. And so today we still have our business that does the single family aspects in Panama City. And as we get deals, I have a very large, I think we have about close to 7,000 people in our Alabama real estate investor group. So we still see a lot of deals that come through across the state of Alabama on the single family and multifamily side. And so we have a team that works really well that can travel. And we've done deals in Huntsville, Mobile, Montgomery, and Panama City still to this day on the single family side. But we really focus in now on looking to sell single families. Even though over the last couple of years things have slowed down, insurance has been a kind of a double whammy when it's coupled with the interest rates that we've experienced in the Panama City market, as well as looking at the benefits of multifamily, that we really kind of pivoted to more multifamily focus here the last couple of years. And just because the ability to scale where you can do one multifamily project a year that's equivalent to 10 fix and flip deals. And so that's the thing that we've seen with just the scalability with multifamily, that really is worth just putting the time and effort into, getting a great deal like that and having a team already in place that you just kind of plug that new asset in and then just sit back and manage. And so it's all about, having that strategic investment plan for you as an individual, because everybody's risk tolerance and plans for long-term wealth generation is going to be different. And if you don't have a plan, then I'm telling you right now, then you're planning to fail.
Yeah. So let's kind of like transition to your last or most recent acquisition. How was it acquired? Was it, syndication, joint venture? If it was a single family, just hard money, or, how was that acquired?
Yeah, no, great question. So we closed on our last one in Montgomery. Right now, we have a total of 4 complexes in Montgomery. The last one we bought December 23. It was really a unique deal. So it was kind of 100% owner financing, a 20 unit built in 1998, 2-story brick building right beside the 24 unit and 12 unit and 40 unit we had bought in 2022. So his previous owner, he had a fund that was a minority owner in the deal. They had about 400,000 in equity in it. We negotiated roughly around a 50% buyout. And so the owner, when we bought the 12 unit, he agreed to take 150K that he would pay them off at a discount for their equity. And then we brought in 40,000. So for that 400K position, we bought for 190,000 together. And once we refinance, we'll get that distribution at 80,000. So put in 40, and he agreed we would double our money for the equity that we would have in the asset. So with that, we've been going through with the value add side of it. The rents were really low, around 500 for the 1 bedroom, 600 for the 2 bedrooms. Market rent is 950 for two ones and 850 for 1 ones. And so we've achieved roughly probably about half of that so far here over the last year. And going in, we're looking at like a portfolio refinance. And so that deal was definitely a good one, because with the creative financing aspect of it, we didn't have to bring a whole lot of money to the table. And we're able to blend that in with the other assets nearby. We already had property management set up in place. We already had all our vendors, from landscaping, pest control, HVAC support, all those pieces were already there. So we just literally just plugged that asset in, and it was pretty seamless. And so even with that, I would say before then, it's like just to plug that in right there, leading up to the other assets, we had some challenges with property management. We fired 2 property management companies before we ended up with, Partners Realty, who we have right now, who's a great partner and member of our team that we just hit the 1-year anniversary at the beginning of November 24. And so it's been quite the journey there. And and so definitely looking to do more of those type of deals in the future.
All right. So let's unpack that just a little bit more. So how did you happen upon this, I guess, seller, if you would? I understand, you said it was next door to some of your other assets or something like that, but were you in the market looking, or how'd that come about?
No, that's a great question, because, one of the things that I always tell people, like, you can't be on the sideline and expect to win. If you're not in the game playing the game, then you're never going to win. And so the thing is, it was like we were buying the 40 unit, we had it under contract, and just so happened this owner shared the same property management company with the 40 unit that we were buying. And so he was the original builder. He owned the 12 unit, he owned the 24 unit, and he owned the 20 unit. And so we put the deal together. Even before we closed on the 40 unit, we went under contract. He agreed if we paid him $55,000 a door for his 12 unit, he will owner finance the purchase of the 24 and 20 unit, which you couldn't even have made that up or even walked into the deal thinking that was even possible. You know what? I know it was nobody but the good Lord that made that possible for this individual who was in his 80s. He had owned a building for coming up on like 25 years for the 24 and 20 unit. And the 12 unit had been there, I think, since the late 80s. And so we were able to we bought the 12 unit with hard money with an 18-month term, 100% owner finance, the 24 unit. We closed both of those in November 22. And everything that I kind of talked about with the deal that closed December 23, it took a year for them to finalize the taxes with that fund that had the minority stake and everything. So it took almost a year for us to finally close on that last one with that owner. So we met him from buying the 40 unit from the guy that they knew each other. They had built them in the 90s, knew one another. And he was like, hey, I want to sell. This was all off market. So there was no brokers involved. And and we just put the deal together. And so, it was definitely a home run. And going through that, to be able to buy the 7 cap, in 22, that, I always have been a conservative underwriter and really focused on cash flow from day one. And it really boded well with where everything went with interest rates. And thankfully, we weren't extremely aggressive with that. And so everything kind of aligned where cash flow is still there, even despite everything that's changed with the economic environment too.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, you don't walk into that, that type of deal or opportunity. You just don't. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. It was definitely the good Lord, divine intervention. It worked right in your favor to be able to walk into that. Wow. I mean, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that definitely. But now you had mentioned also that, you had to fire property management. Everybody knows real estate goes well 100% of the time, 100% of the time. There's never any quirks out there in real estate. You buy it, it runs smooth, and you sell it. That's it. That's how real estate works. Or at least that's what they show on television and on YouTube. So what brought that about that you had to get rid of this property management company?
Yeah, so the first one. Yeah, we'll start with the first one. Went through, we interviewed them, had a great metrics and numbers, had over 5,000 units of management. And they had one asset that they were managing in the Montgomery market where they were looking, at least they told us, to expand their operations. They had a few assets that they managed in Birmingham, that my boots on the ground partner was able to walk and go and see how everything was working. And their hub was based out of Atlanta. So we're looking at it like, okay, they got experience, they know what they're doing, professional property management, systems in place. Perfect. Lo and behold, we get in the first month, we find out the property manager who actually came with our property, they hired her because the older property management company that we bought from, they were standing down because since all the assets primarily focused on managing all those assets there for both owners, that they were done. And so they hired her. And guess what? Now she had to take on the problems of their other property that was in the wrong area of town, that was dealing with constant evictions and everything. And so half her time each week was spent in eviction court. And so she wasn't there to help, transition our property, start executing the business plan. And then lo and behold, all the contractors that were coming in to turn over units were having to come from Atlanta. I'm like, so how is that going to work? And had a couple weeks, and the next thing you know, it's a week before somebody can get back, another tradesman, then 2 weeks goes by. And and it just got to the point over a 6-month period. It's like, you know what, this isn't going the way that it should be going. And the property isn't being taken care of. People aren't there on site to, answer the phone, to take people through the units, to show them units. And so it got to the point where we were like, okay, we got to cut ties. And so with that, income had started to drop just because, we had some vacancies, the units weren't being turned over fast enough. And so there was another local company that had been in the units. Actually, one of the guys that owned the property management company was a part owner in the deal that we had bought. And so he was familiar with the property, of course. And the reason we didn't look at them initially, the staff hadn't managed any multifamily. Since then, they had hired a property manager with commercial real estate experience, and they had started using leveraging AppFolio as the software. So now they had the technology in place. They had a property manager that we sat down, we talked with her. Really great, was impressed. Lo and behold, we were going good. We decided to go with them. Like, perfect. We got boots on the ground. We got local contractors. We had people that know the area. The company had been there over 20 years, and they got commercial experience. They went and hired the right person, and they had the tools in place. So it's like, okay, and they can start onboarding now. So started going down that path, went really well. June, July, the 12 unit, we cleared everyone out, started that renovation project. And lo and behold, I went down to August. We're walking units together, setting the plan for what we're going the lease rent, the lease amounts that we wanted for the units. And it was great. So rolling to Labor Day weekend, they have a huge falling out. The new hire with the commercial real estate experience and the owner of the property management company, a couple of the ladies clashed in the office, and then he reprimanded her and took the other lady's side that had been in his office for years, and she up and quit out the blue. No turnover. Oh, hey, this is what I'm working on for these guys and managing this project. Nothing. And it put us in a complete bind because nobody had a clue of anything that she was doing. And she was really working in her own silo alone, managing everything for us, which was great. But she was a single point of failure. And so they had no clue on what to do at that point in regards to picking up just the simple stuff, like collecting rent and the system in place that we were using for the rent and being able to go through. And for those that weren't paying their rent, like after 5 days, to give them a 7-day notice that, that you can do in Alabama to start to at least have a conversation to see how they're going to make up and pay their rent. None of that happened. And so what I learned from the first situation, like, okay, I'm not playing around. We're not letting this drag out 6-7 months. That was like, okay, I got to find a replacement ASAP because I see where this is going. And, and so we did that in November last year. They started the transition process mid-October, and 1 November they took over Partners Realty, and they've been a godsend, man. Like, man, I'm like, where the hell were these guys when we went through the due diligence up front, making the hire? We should have hired these guys. And it's been great. And 9-day difference. And I knew what it was. So, I managed my 18 unit my first 6 months of ownership in 2020. So I knew I actually wanted to self-manage because I wanted to know that experience and get the experience. So in situations like that allowed me to be able to step in. And I had the property management company that I turned over to when I left Florida in November of 20 well, we've been with them the whole entire time. So I know what it looks like when it works. And so this company stepped in. We had of the 96 units, I think we had somewhere around 33 units that were vacant when they took over November of last year. We hit 90% occupancy the end of July of 24. So it took us about 8 months almost to kind of right the ship, do renovations. Over that time frame, we spent about $250,000 in capex to renovate those units, turn those units over, and and get the ship going. But yeah, that was a trying time, and we could talk about some of the other stuff that happened, like where we had to break in at the 12 unit, where we had the vacant units sitting there. There was a rash of like vandalism for like people stealing like electrical and copper from vacant properties across Montgomery in the city. I found out talking to the electrician, and there was a commercial property that was under that was being built, and they had $1 million loss where they ran all the electrical inside the commercial building and it was stolen. Yeah. So it was, managing all that, the insurance claim denied. And it was like, okay, we got to bite that one. And then we're installing new HVACs. And guess what? The HVAC guy that's going in welding the copper walks out, and with some sparks that somewhere ignited and set one of the units on fire and burned up a corner of a wall where the HVAC unit was, the one upstairs. But luckily he was insured. And so we got a $70,000 check for that. But that made us whole and put us in a little better position. But those are all the things that you don't hear when you start talking about real estate investing. We just hear about passive income. Passive income. As limited partners, you don't have to deal with all those challenges. But as the operator and general partner, and we manage all that to set up as a joint venture. It's myself and 5 other individuals that own that asset. Yeah. And so that's the thing. That's the joys that come with it. But being able to solve those challenges, we're going into our refinance right now, even though rates are a little bit higher than we expected. It's been all good. And I think, that's the thing that just encouraging people is like, you just got to get out here and get started, and having the right people in your network. It helps you tremendously with being able to solve these challenges whenever they come up.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can you give our listeners a few pointers that they can take when they're vetting a property management company so that they don't have to go through some of these things?
No, that's great. Because I think you learn the most, and wisdom comes from learning from other people's mistakes. And they say, hey, if you want to know what lies on the road ahead, talk to somebody coming back. And so the thing with that, I would tell you that, one, you want to make sure that they have experience managing your asset class that you're buying in. So whether it's self-storage, small multifamily, large multifamily complex, or single family, that make sure that the property manager has that experience. Talk to referrals. Referrals are always great. Talk to other investors that they manage their assets for and have a conversation with them. But then also you want to make sure that they have the trades in-house, local, that there's a lot of risk that comes with being able to bring in a company that isn't established in your market. So make sure they have the right systems in place, the right people that are local, close to your property, whereas that you're not having to depend on people for coming from hours away to support your property, because the logistics on that just makes it a lot of times untenable. And so you want to set yourself up for success. And then I would say too, make sure that they have experience managing the class of property. That you don't want to take a company that traditionally has managed A-class brand new construction and you're bringing them to a C-class building that's 40 years old. And so different clients, different, demographics. And so you want to make sure that everything is in alignment with your property and the vision that you have for your property, and making sure that they have experience executing those business plans in the past and have a really good track record.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree. That's good. Thanks for those pointers. Now, in terms of, you said you like to do value add. So this particular property that you guys just recently have taken over, what value adds are you guys applying to that?
Yeah, no, great question. That's our strategy with forcing appreciation through renovations. So we've added vinyl plank flooring, fresh paint throughout, new light fixtures. We've actually refurbished the existing countertops to kind of a granite light paint, the treating that we put on the countertops, as well as where we needed to update appliances. We brought in just new white appliances. We didn't need stainless steel in our market, as well as we also went through and resurfaced the tubs, the bathroom tubs and the cabinets, and just painted the cabinets, where the cabinets were in really good shape. So we just went in with white paint and changed out the actual hardware, not fixtures, but the hardware on the cabinets. And we were able to save quite a bit with that. And so that one of the things that we saw with the market where we were at, that where we were targeting our price, that it didn't make sense to bring in stainless steel appliances, and it didn't make sense to bring in all new cabinets when we could just resurface and paint the existing cabinets. So that was kind of the execution plan that we put together for these units, and it's worked out really well.
Okay. Now, have you guys stayed on budget?
We have. The one thing for is the vacancy, the budget we stayed on for is the actual turning units itself budget, but the overall budget, just because we weren't planning on, we have turned over 67 units of the 96, and I think we were planning originally to only turn over around 50. But, with the mismanagement with the property management company, that, we found out probably, I think it was maybe June, with the current property management, talking to one of the long-term tenants that shared that, the second property management company, they came in and put a letter on everybody's door saying their rent was going up $250. And we had people, we wonder why, when they took over November last year, they were like, we got people that we hadn't been able to communicate with, and they didn't go into the units. And lo and behold, we had additional 10 units that people had just walked out of, kind of left overnight. And we were like, why the hell people just up and leave? Because the 24 and the 20 unit, the plan was just to keep rents where they were. We weren't going to do renovations at all. And that we were going to look at doing a $50 to $75 rent bump in place. We're going to try to take them all the way up to market rent without having to turn those units over. And so lo and behold, we found out that the second property manager, they went and put that letter on everyone's door, and it spooked a lot of people like, hey, I'm not paying that. And a lot of people walked out, and subsequently we ended up with vacant units in these in this side of the property that we weren't initially planning for. And so with that, had to go out, raise some additional capital to come in and to turn those units over, and then lease up. Then of course the lease up took a little bit longer as well too. And so luckily we had the right lenders. We had a couple of extensions in there and worked with us to continue to evolve the business plan. So yeah, so we definitely went over budget with the higher vacancy rate that impacted that, as well as where we all know that with a higher vacancy rate is less income being generated from the property. And so just impacts from that as well too, that we had to overcome those challenges.
Yeah. So did you guys find out about this $250 letter while that property management company was still there, or after they had left?
No, yeah, this was after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, this was after the fact with our current property manager. And just, oh, by the way, a conversation with one of the long-term tenants. They were just chit-chatting, talking, and that came up. And that's how he learned it. And of course, he told me, he was like, man, he was talking with one of the tenants who was like, man, did you know that they put that letter? I'm like, oh my God. Like, that explains, why we had that mass exodus like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you guys go back and try to do any type of damage control after that? Or you didn't have to because the current property management company had kind of put that to bed?
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
guys
Yeah.
weren't.
Oh yeah. They had put that to bed for sure. And great communication with the tenants. I think of the 84 units that we have leased up right now, I think we only have like three tenants that have challenges right now with not paying. And it's been a complete turnaround. And in the same time, even with that, we haven't changed our vetting requirements for new residents to come into the community. So we haven't cut any corners in regards to how much income they need to be making on a monthly basis. We're not bringing in anyone that has prior evictions or any charge offs on utility bills. And so we made sure that we're bringing the right people into the community, even though we were looking and trying to ramp up a lot of units could come online to increase the occupancy, that we didn't want to trade and kind of defer and bring in the wrong type of residents where 6 months from now we're having a lot of challenges with rent collection or things like that in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No. Have you guys run into any surprises during renovations? Because a lot of times everything is great until you start peeling stuff away.
Yeah, so we had a couple units that had like long-term leaks that in the bathroom, or to go in and had like where the ceiling underneath the second story that you could look up where it was you could tell that upstairs that the tub drain was leaking. So we had a couple instances like that, but I would say thanks to the good Lord, nothing major that has come out of the renovations. And we knew that the units were fairly weren't too terribly old, built in the 90s. And so there wasn't a whole lot that was going wrong. So no, not a whole lot outside of just some plumbing leaks here and there that we had to account for, as well as replacing a few HVACs and water heaters as well too. And so, but that's something we're definitely positioning for. We're actually recapitalizing that deal after we refinance. We're going to look at bringing in and doing a raise for another $600,000, and we're going to allocate some of that for operations. We're just replacing legacy HVACs and water heaters over the next 3 years, as well as the investors. We're going to take some chips off the table from our initial down payment that we put in with our investments.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So now let's kind of let's cross over a little bit. Let's talk about your team right now. Who do you have on your team? Partners, stakeholders, things like that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So really on the operations side, it's me and me and me. And some of the other partners are a little bit more or less hands-on and kind of working through like just nuances with like some of the small things with marketing and everything. But for like the day-to-day operations, I'm the manager of the LLC and making it all happen. We have a phenomenal property management team that orchestrates everything the day-to-day. I'll get involved with getting like some of the quotes with different vendors and kind of work as like the construction management side of it, if you will. For when we had that large influx of vacancy units, I actually brought my team up from Panama City that came up, and they probably turned about, I would say probably close to like maybe 40-50% of those units. And so they were able to come up surge and do that. So that was great. And so I kind of have my hands in that side of it. And the property management team really orchestrates the rest of it. But we have great partnerships also with the Housing Authority for the city of Montgomery. They have been a great partner with being able to house individuals that have Section 8 vouchers, as well as veterans that have VASH vouchers that are looking for affordable housing. So that's been really cool to kind of establish those relationships in the community, as well as being able to work with the local Maxwell Gunner Air Force base that's there in town. We're working the housing office there on the military base to let them know, hey, that we're an ally in the community, and we would love to have military members to stay at our property. And of course, with me being active duty, why wouldn't I? And especially because housing is expensive in the area, and so being able to have affordable housing that's safe in the community is what we're all about. So yeah, so it's definitely been a blessing.
Okay. Okay. I know you said like a lot of your deals that you've done right there were joint ventures. Is that pretty much how you were able to raise your capital through the relationships you've built over time?
Yes. So like with this one, I put about half of my own capital in the deal, and then the other partners that came in just from relationships from some of the mastermind groups that I'm in, or individuals that they know that's in mastermind groups with me that let them know about the opportunity that we have with this deal, and just continue to just I like to say spread the gospel and just sharing, hey, how do you build wealth with real estate, and really just aligning with other investors that have the same investment risk tolerance as me, as well as the long term view with buying these assets, whereas we're looking to own long term versus sell after 3 or 5 years after doing the business plan, that we look to refinance and just be able to keep the asset long term for the passive income. So it's really just finding those handful of investors that want to go along for the ride and go through the journey and just go through in alignment and then just start executing.
Love it. Love it. Now when you're speaking with some of your comrades, you're still in the military on active duty, but so when you're speaking to some of them or some of the people you've already served with who are not in real estate, does your conversations kind of veer off towards real estate?
It's that's a great question because I think it's aligned just with entrepreneurship. Most people, their mindset isn't really, they can't conceive owning an apartment or investing in a private equity fund that's buying real estate. And so like I have found my conversations that they have waned off, especially just because if the emphasis hasn't been there in the past, that is no secret that everybody knows me, that I'm a real estate investor in what I do. And a lot of times that the conversation, that if it's not reciprocated and the interest isn't there, I'm not going to drive the conversation. And so, and so I think that's kind of where it is, that a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't want to talk about investing. They don't want to talk about wealth, whatever reasons. And so I'll bring it up here and there. But if it's not really interest or somebody really saying, hey, this is where we're going, and that's just in my circle, because it can be awkward, conversations, and really having people and holding people accountable with asking supporting questions like, hey, why are you not investing in real estate, or why are you going through? But what I have found is a lot of people, it starts with the information, because most people that I coach, they realize, hey, I don't want to be an active investor. I'm not signing up for that. It's like, I want to be passive. I just want to invest in your team, your systems, your deals, and be hands off. And so, and it's a different conversation at that point. And so I think the big thing that I tell military members is just get educated, get informed of what's going on out here, because there's going to come a day when you have to step out of service and you're going to come out here into this private sector, into the civilian world, and it's going to all be on you. You won't be able to contribute to your TSP, which is awesome, but there's ways to diversify your investment portfolio where you're not completely exposed to the roller coaster on Wall Street, and you can own assets that are going to be a hedge to inflation, and that you're going to be able to generate passive income that can go with that retirement if you're blessed to retire from the service, or if you're able to get disability and things like that. But just looking at real estate as a tool, and it doesn't always have to be 100 units or a 50-unit complex. You can go buy a 4 unit, you can go buy a 10 unit, and really become successful and generate enough passive income that will sustain you for as long as you need it to.
Like that. I like it. So, with like everything we've talked about, you've been super busy, with everything, the military career, real estate. What convinced you to decide to sit down and write a book?
Great question. It was not in the works. It wasn't planned. I can't sit here and say, yep, I always said I'm going to be an author. Like that wasn't how it happened. And it was really congratulating another military member. She had just wrote her book and posted on LinkedIn, and I gave her my congratulations. She's alumni of Georgetown. And when I did that, her author coach that led the program that she went through commented below, because I was like, hey, great, congratulations. That's awesome. Like, yeah, I probably should look at writing a book one day. And so the program director for the program she went through that helped her put her book together commented that, hey, we just launched a cohort last week and we still have some slots available. If you're serious, let's have a conversation. And so we had just moved back to DC. We had like 4 projects in Panama City still going on. So we were managing all that virtual. And I was coming up with every excuse. I'm like, we just moved back here. We got to get the kids in school. It's in the middle of COVID. So we were teaching from home and all of that. And my wife was like, we'll figure it out. Like, this is a great opportunity. And guess what? You're always telling people that they need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Then guess what? You got to step out on faith and be uncomfortable and know that you can do this and figure it out. And so I had the conversation, and my wife wouldn't let me say no. And I'm glad she didn't. So it was a 10-month program with Georgetown University with the Creators Institute. I think they do like 2 cohorts every year. And it was like a $500 commitment out of pocket. You have an editor that you work with on a weekly basis. And New Degree Press was the publisher. You have 100% your ownership rights. And it was a phenomenal program that helped someone that was anti-writing, as an engineer, really analytical, to really go through the process. And I was able to interview over 30 high-level real estate investors, many who were active duty or veterans that were crushing in real estate. And so met a lot of great investors and built relationships with them, and really was able to capture my journey, but then also capture the journey of others and how they became successful. So I definitely highly recommend that program at Georgetown for anybody that's looking to become an author and write a book. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Through partnership with a lot of nonprofits. And one of the things that has really been obvious to me as I get ready to transition out of service is just the anxiety, the lack of preparation for a lot of service members when they transition out the service. And, I attend the Military Influencer Conference each year for the last couple of years, and just being able to align with the different missions out there for organizations. And so just being able to give back, whether it's my time, doing webinars and just informing individuals like, hey, how they can leverage their VA loan to build wealth, or if it's, being able to, just really being a connection, where being able to put veterans in touch with other organizations for whatever service they need, whether it's, companies that can help them with the VA disability, companies that can help them with transitioning into another career, or if it's even, just being able to understand, hey, how can you update your resume? Just knowing like, hey, this individual has a company, or they have a service that can help you update your resume so you can be, be more competitive when you're out here on the job search. So I think definitely those ways have been what's spoken with me, and then just helping veterans, as my clients, with being able to be hands on with them going through their acquisitions, with the properties. We helped a client buy for over $1.1 million 4-unit in Chattanooga using their VA loan with 100% financing. And so just being able to help people build strategies where now you're becoming a landlord, you're owning assets, and you're building wealth. And just looking for more opportunities as I retire and get more time back to continue to just be more involved with different missions out there.
So, thank you for all this information you provided today. But as we begin to wrap this up, what is one belief you had as a beginning investor that has turned out to be false, but it may be holding people back from taking the leap into investing?
Yeah, without a doubt. A limiting belief centered around not having enough money, or you had to have all the money in order to invest in real estate, and more in particular multifamily. It was so eye opening, and I talked about it. I've bought multiple complexes, 100% owner financing, and done deals on the single family side as well too. And so that limiting belief definitely did not serve me. And until I had that transformation on how capital works and how capital is looking for opportunities to create yield and looking for investments. And so growing up in an environment where you didn't have a lot of money, that there's a lot of fear that comes with it. You don't want to lose it. And I had to get past that. And so I think fear holds a lot of people back. And the thing is, it's like until the opportunity before you, that gain and everything on the other side of it with success and the cash flow that comes with it, once that dream and vision of that success becomes larger than the fear, that's when you'll move out. But until you don't make that transformation and fear is still larger than what you're looking for and what your why is, then you'll never take action. You'll never step out on faith. But until you get to that point where it's like, okay, I can figure this out. I have the confidence, I have the mindset to do it, that I'm a true believer that the universe is going to align. You're going to meet the right people. The environment around you is going to change.
Did you have a mentor as you were coming up in the real estate space?
I did not. I did not. And that was one of the things for me. I really leveraged, my project management. It was funny that, I was managing over $1 billion software development contract in 2015. And we negotiated, say, the government well over $10 million. And my bonus check for that year was a whopping zero, because we don't get bonuses in the service. And you know what? I was like, I got this skill set. I'm managing contractors, managing stuff that's doing software development. I can manage a contractor doing $50,000 worth of work at a house. And so I took the leap of faith. And so really I leveraged that project management skills, my leadership skills, my analytical skills, and kind of honed those from just researching and getting out here and doing it. And so I never really had a mentor that kind of helped me. And I think that's why it took me so long to get to the point where I'm at now, even though I'm extremely successful and, kind of looking back and saying, oh, I could have done more, but I could have got here a whole lot faster if I had known, if I had bumped into someone that already had been down the road and came back and told me about what was out there and doing it. And I think a little bit was that on me being willing to be vulnerable and open myself up to seek out that mentorship as well too, to find the right individual. And so that's really one side for me, is being able to be what I needed early on in my journey, and to be able to provide that to others has been extremely rewarding, and to help people level up and see that, hey, you can go to this level and achieve this level of success without having to go through all the mistakes that I made and having to flip 20 houses to go buy your first 20 unit. I can show you how to do that right now and hold your hand to go buy a 20 unit complex and not make mistakes, versus having to go flip a whole bunch of houses, go through a lot of headaches and years of transition, years of your life that you'll never get back, and do that. And so that's been really cool on the mentorship side.
Love it. Now, is there any person, whether real estate related or not, that has led to your success?
Oh, two people, my mom and dad, man. Like it's crazy. And my mom went to be with the Lord back in 2021. And and just going through, and I think back, because the more and more I study success and those that have found wealth and things like that, it, like, all this stuff goes back to your mindset. Like, people don't realize how important the mind is, and everything that it can improve around you in the environment that you're in. And she set the tone for me, like, early age. It was like, hey, you're going to school, you're leading. And I grew up in a town with 3 traffic lights, dirt roads. I was out there deer hunting before I would go to school, at high school and things like that. And so really humble beginnings. And yet, there wasn't a whole lot like a will, but they had the vision. My mom had seen it and knew what I was capable of. And she pushed me to my greatness, and the encouragement, and, and just letting you know, like, hey, that you don't have time to goof off, that you got to get out of here. You got to go off to school, get an education, and you're going to take care of your sister. Like, make sure she's good to go. If anything happens to us, you're responsible for her. And I've taken that with me, and that mindset and drive in everything that I've touched. And I understand that tomorrow's not promised. My faith, when you hit adversity, when you hit those tough times, when somebody breaks into property, when you have to fire this property management company, when you're having to go raise $250,000, and just going through those situations, that 100% my parents and my faith in Christ has been there, not rock solid, and kind of built me into the man I am today, the investor that I am today. So without them, definitely wouldn't be here.
Great way to end it. Well, Johnny, it's been blast having you as our guest today. And as we close out, tell our listeners where we can learn more about you, get in touch with you, and learn about all the fabulous things you have going on right now.
Awesome. No, it's been a pleasure being here today. For those that's looking out, definitely JohnnyLynam.com, my website, just my first name, last name.com. I'm out on LinkedIn, Johnny Lynam, Facebook, the military CEO, on Instagram and YouTube. Yeah, would love to have conversations. If I can be of value in any way, just let me know. Would love to have those conversations, and be on the lookout for Linam Capital launching next year. That I'm super excited about that, and just being able to help more individuals be able to become the best CEO of their last name and invest in real estate.
Yes. I like that. Awesome. Again, Johnny, I want to thank you for your time today and all the wisdom you have provided to my listeners. It's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you, our fans, for tuning in to the Service to Syndication podcast, where we want to provide value to you and your investing business. Please tune in to our next episode, where we will interview another fantastic investing professional. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Service to Syndication podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate your support, and we are grateful about being a part of your journey to becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will get a lot out of what you just heard. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be in all areas of life. And if this was really valuable, share it on your social media stories and timelines. Thank you for watching and listening. Now go be great.